we're now going to be welcoming our current Centre Director, Dr. Nadia Wager, along with 4 of our country directors from India, Banu Varma, from Jamaica, Dr. Christine Frey, from Uganda, Dr. Eric Ochin, and from the UK, Jill Kirkman. And for the next hour or so, we are going to be opening the floor to each of our country directors in turn to speak about some of the highlights and perhaps some of the challenges of the last 4 years at our open executive group meeting. So I'll start just by handing over to you, Nadia, as chair for this next section of the proceedings. Thank you. Oh, you're on mute, Nadia.
Well, welcome everybody. So this is going to be quite an extraordinary EMG in a way. So rather than us going through our normal process of minutes and actions and thinking about what to do next, this is just a wonderful opportunity to reflect on how we've got to where we are now and what we'd like to do in the future. So I'm going to go around each of the country directors to hear your views on what have been the challenges and the achievements for you in your countries. And I hate to shock people because you don't know who's coming first, but Eric, I'm going to come to you first because you just happen to be on my screen in the right position. So over to you, Eric.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon in different parts of the world. Nick, are you going to cascade my presentation so that I can talk through them? Or I use my own, which I have here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Nick. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks very much. Eric Awich Ochen is my name, as I've already been introduced, and I'm privileged to have been the country director for the Ni3 project in Uganda over the last 4 years. It has been a very important and an interesting journey for us here in Uganda. And I want to talk through a couple of the most striking things that we take with us, or my own reflection on this project. As far as the main achievement of the project is concerned, I would like to first of all say that this project has actually enabled us to do a lot for the children of Uganda. And it is our hope that we will continue to knock doors so that we can continue with the ideas and the vision for the project, so that indeed we can make gender-based violence none in 3, so that none of the the 1 in 3 actually suffers gender-based violence again. So in Uganda, what we did, we developed and delivered a pro-social game, video game, which we call Peace, of course, which was formatted on the life of a young girl called Peace, who dropped out of school due to other challenges, and of course is married off earlier. And then, of course, Peace's life and future was significantly affected. So the game is around a life story and, of course, the environment in which she inhabits. So we went ahead and trialed this game during the pandemic, and I think there are other sessions where we talk about it. I think my research fellow Esther will talk about it at some point. We trialed the game in about 4 schools in Uganda with a total population of about 305 young people, and the preliminary assessment and feedback from the game actually suggests that it provides a great promise in tackling the evil of child marriage, and we hope that we'll be able to get funding from other agencies so that we can continue with this and continue promoting peace and of course implement it or carry it, show it in many other schools so that we can truly influence the attitude of our young people regarding child marriage. The project has enabled us as a department, as a social work department, and as Makerere University generally, it has enhanced our visibility in the fight against gender-based violence in Uganda. Of course, gender-based violence is an enormous problem. It appears almost like every intervention that is done is so small that it doesn't, reach to the heart of the problem. But our viewpoint is that any effort that is done makes a difference to the life of one person, to the life of two people, or maybe to the life of hundreds of children, perhaps. So that is what keeps us going, but at least this has enhanced our visibility. Through the Ni3 research project, we've been able to forge partnership with the central government, of course, mainly with the very able support from our IHE member, soon to be Dr. Angela Nakafero. We were introduced to many relevant departments, education, community, curriculum development, and many others actually, including, of course, even working with UN agencies like UNDP, which is one of the partners that we've submitted a proposal for us to implement the game of peace across a much wider audience. So it has helped us to forge a number of partnerships, which we think we can continue to work with to make a difference in this country. So this network are very important to us and also to the global Ni3 as we continue to work together to address this big problem. One of the most important offshoot of our project, which wasn't planned from the beginning, but which we did based on some fund which was available, was what we have called the school-based social work. Unlike schools in Europe or other developed countries, which have school-based social workers, Uganda does not have school-based social workers. There are only a few in a couple of schools, but the majority of Ugandan schools do not have school-based social workers who can attend to the different needs of children that the senior woman or the senior male teachers or the school administration may not be able to address. So we piloted this system, this approach, where we work with second and third year university social work students, place them in the schools, and actually in a later session, my colleague James Thomas will talk more about this, but we think this has been one of the most important achievement that we have done because testimony have emerged of children being helped, being linked to services, and even the teachers themselves appreciating the importance of school-based social work. So our own aim and interest and aspiration is that we mount some kind of advocacy so that in future, government actually recognizes the important role that school-based social work play in the education of children and allows that to be formalized within the education system and staffing system. So that is our vision for this particular strand, which emerged from the Ni3 Uganda. And then, of course, at the departmental level, most of us were newly trained PhD holders with limited skills in resource mobilizations and networking. This project was able to give us opportunities, which we shared with a couple of other colleagues within the university in terms of resource mobilization. The mobilization skills definitely will stay with us as we go ahead also in our own individual career within the university. And of course, as we continue to look for more resources to tackle social development problems and concerns. We can move ahead, Nick, to the next slide. As we continue to our project achievement, well, through, of course, building our capacity in resource mobilization, we were able to submit grants application, although they have not been very successful, but we got one which was successful to the tune of about $44,000 US. which is going to continue with our school-based social work, allowing us to experiment with a more wider audience as well, using a randomized control trial approach to be able to present more evidence in terms of how school-based social work make a difference in the life of children and young people. And then we've also submitted another grant to the Sexual Violence Research Institute. We are waiting for the feedback. And then we've also submitted another proposal, building on peace and the work we've been doing in the Ni3 to UNDP Spotlight Initiative, between about 560,000 euros. We are also waiting for feedback. And of course, one of the most important achievements as well as we see it is us being part of this global network to address gender-based violence. And we are excited that the Ni3 Center is now a research center within the university, so we hope to continue working with it for more collaboration. The next slide, please. One of the things that we can also take away from this project is enhancing young people's participation. We've been able to work with the Young Person Advisory Group. We've worked with many young people at the university under our media gathering team. We've worked with them, we build their confidence, and actually also touch the thousands of children that participated in the psychosocial survey, and then also in the qualitative survey, and then also in the games trialing. Then in terms of research outputs, as we noted, we interviewed about 11,600 children for the psychosocial survey. We did a qualitative study with 45 child survivors, survivors of child marriage. And already our project is destined to have about minimum of 6 publications, of which about 3 are already out. 2 more are being worked on by the Ugandan team. And then we also have about 2 more or 3 we are working on with the team at Huddersfield. Next one. Yeah, in terms of challenges, what are the major challenges? Of course, as Rose indicated earlier, this project has not been without challenges. But what I want to note is the capacity, the ability of the different members within the team, within the team in Uganda, and then also within the global Ni3 research project to support each other to overcome many of the challenges that befell us in this project. Of course, the delays which came because of COVID-19 in Uganda, because of COVID, but we still went ahead and trialed the game in spite of the challenges, although it made us incur a little bit more heavier cost due to SOPs and other related things, but we were able to deliver our project effectively. And then, of course, our team had to adjust to working from home. We were used mainly to working from our office desk, but we had to adjust to doing that. It was another interesting experience as well. Other challenges have been fluctuation in the dollar rates, exchange rates, but still we are able to adjust our costing accordingly and address these things. Yeah, in terms of how we're able to address it, I think I've already talked about them, working within our resource envelope, making a few changes here and there to the activities, and adjusting things to fit within what we are able. The next slide, please. In terms of the key lesson that we've learned, those are the key lessons that we've learned. One of the key lessons we note is the importance of collaboration. Of course, you cannot work alone. So the collaboration with central government, local government, we were able to obtain support and consent early enough because we were able to involve the different government institutions and departments in our programs early on. And then we also involve other stakeholders as well, partnership with non-governmental organizations, international and local organizations to enhance the referral pathways or to ensure that we use it to refer some of the children that we came across who needed support. And then, of course, the engagement of young people in different activities was also I mean, it is an important thing that we actually learned, that for us to be able to attain what we want to do well, we needed to ensure that participation was paramount. We didn't need to show that we were the experts. We needed to work with those that are there. And then one other lesson is that effective coordination of global projects requires regular communication and transparency between the parties involved. We are able to have communication. We had a regular meeting, initially every 4 weeks, then later on 6 weekly. It was the end of the project with the operation director and the team in the UK. We were able to have meeting also with the different country partners, with the different package, work package leaders, which all help to support us to, successfully execute this project. And then maybe lastly, the importance of planning for contingencies in multi-year projects. I mean, when we started this project, none of us anticipated that COVID-19 was going to hit us as hard as it did. I mean, nobody anticipated a global pandemic in 2017, but it did happen. And we've learned lesson that contingency planning is very important. And maybe this is also a lesson to our donor, that maybe donors may need to exhibit a bit of flexibility in terms of budgeting and allowing us to have at least a percentage of our project fund as a contingency. The kind of budget we operated did not have any contingency budget. So where we had challenges, we had to cut costs and reduce on particular output in some cases. And I think that is all from me. Thank you very much. I hope I've not gone beyond the time I was allocated.
Thank you, Eric. That was amazing. And I think you're right about the needing some contingency money put aside, particularly if we ever have another pandemic. But you and the team have performed amazingly. I just couldn't believe that you managed to pull off the games trial when you did, just before the lockdown hit again for you, didn't it? So well done. It's been a phenomenal journey for you all. Thank you. Banu, can I come to you? Is Prasna with you as well today? Or is it just you?
Hi, thank you, Nadia. Prasna is very much there, but I'm going to be talking today. I'm going to take this August company through the achievements and the track that we've gone through the last 4 years. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. Is my screen visible to all?
Not yet. No.
Let me know when you're able to see it.
It's not coming through just yet, Banu.
Okay. Nick, is there anything specific that I should be doing? I have clicked on.
I don't believe so. I think it should share as normal. No? I can't see it. There we go.
Ah, there we go.
You can?
Right. Yes, we can now. Thank you, Banu.
You're welcome. First off, I think a big thank you to Adele and Eric and Roz for taking us through the early part of this conversation. The insights that Adele shared with all of us today were huge. They were thought-inducing, and I think it's bound to leave a deep impact in each one of us. And so were the insights that you provided, Nadia. Eric, some of the points that you touched upon were very illuminating as well, especially the part on the contingency of funds that I think it missed all of us, right? And perhaps that's what we should keep in mind the next time we pick up a project also. I'm going to, touch upon our key achievements, our key learnings from our project, the 4-year-long project that we conducted. And, I'm going to start with, offering my deep gratitude to everyone who has been with us. Um, Adil, the UK team, all the work package leads, Vicky for ensuring that, there was pretty much nothing that was left. We were left supported all through the 4 years that we've been on this. And of course, the India team, led by Rukmini, Anne, Sunena, Mehek, Ishani, um, the student interns that we've had, Yoganshi and Dharmit and Gwyneth and Isa. All of them have in many ways shaped the direction in which we took this project. The ebbs and the flows of the project were all, they were all catalysts in taking us through all of those. And there were quite a few. And I'm going to begin with, what we've tried to do is we've tried to divide our entire, gamut of experiences under research output and, other achievements. Under research output, when I look back, soon after our return from Manchester in December of 2017, Pratana and I directly, dived directly into finding out what is it that we're going to be doing in terms of the research. We just knew that it's going to be gender-based violence. And Adil had given us very important tips to keep in mind before we actually, trudge on. And the first thing that we did was to reach out to people who could help us potentially. At that time, we did not know how much of a help they would be, and what a discovery that had been in itself. We reached out to advocate Veena Gowda, and she, along with a colleague of hers, Ms. Mamta Murthy, opened our eyes, opened our thought process completely, and we were able to identify and zero down on what our research question would be, and which was, patriarchy and gender bias leading to gender-based violence. And then what we did was, and that's when Rukmini came in, and we got into literature reviews, and the systematic literature review was our discovery moment. I think the first 6 to 8 months were full of discoveries. I think each day was, an aha day, a eureka day. And we were finding so much, we were uncovering so much, we were discovering so much, and all of it together. We were able to establish the link between gender bias and the various forms of gender-based violence. And we were able to put together the meta-synthesis of research from India. Moving on, we got started with our qualitative research part, and that was another completely different experience. We came in touch with very interesting partners, Triumph Consultancy, run by Catherine Fernandez, and she and her, literal army of volunteers helped us get to our 42 in-depth interviews and the 7 focus group discussions that we did with men. So 42 women and 7 groups of men for the focus group discussions. Fantastic discoveries. Some of the experience took literally. I think the effect of those FGDs and the ideas was such that it took us time for it to wear off. it was very intense. It was in its experience, in its impact on us, in the kind of effect it had on us. It took us quite a lot of time for the effects to wear off. Uh, that was an eye-opening experience. Then came our quantitative research, the psychosocial analysis, and the 5 months that it when I look back, August of 2019 to December is like it's a blur in my life, because of the kind of you know the number of schools that we visited, the number of schools that we tried to canvas our project at, and the kind of support that we received, the kind of schools that the number of students, literal 8,541 students were touched by the India project, and that's a huge number. That's a huge number, considering the fact that the kind of challenges that we had to go through to reach out to those students, and extremely gratifying to know that at the end of December we had 8,541 students that we were able to touch. Our goal was much higher, but sadly, by that period of time, it became uh, very difficult to to rope in schools and get them to sign up with us. And also, towards the end of December 2019, the first feelers of the pandemic had already started to show up. So we had to stop at 8,500, but we feel that that was a significant number that we were able to achieve. Um, add to that, 5 different conference presentations that and very high quality presentations that were put together by the team, by Rukmini and the young interns that we had at that point in time. In terms of publications, we are ready with 5 publications, of which 1 has already been published, and 4 are in progress. We've reached out to several publications, and uh, ideally it should get approvals very soon. But the work is on to have these published as quickly as possible. We've in collaboration with the work package 6, we've put together several very key legal features which we can actually bring through in our policy brief when we perhaps bring it up in the next project that we would potentially do. But the blueprint of that is already ready, and it comes together as a very strong policy brief. In collaboration with Dr. Paul Miller and Dr. Preeti Chopra, the India team has been able to put together a very strong curriculum, which we can bring up with the governmental agencies as and when the pandemic and the condition, the general social condition improves. This is something that is very strong, and we are extremely excited to take up as the next potential project. In addition to all of this, and in addition to the fact that the entire team were busy with a lot of activities, study circle is something that we had introduced in the Indian team, and this was the brainchild of Rukmini Banerjee, our research fellow. And these were very, very gratifying nuggets of knowledge transfer, and the kind of involvement that we witnessed amongst all team members together, in be it in preparation for a potential a future session, or animated active discussion in each of these sessions. It was something that we are all going to be proud of, because that's something which I don't think we've experienced in the past. In addition to this, we have, apart from the research output, the other set of achievements that we have, we put together under the public engagement head. And we've had some very interesting, very involved seminars and discussions and panel discussions in over the past 4 years. The picture over here, is a sample of the kind of conversation we've had around gender bias and the problem of gender normalization. So the person in the middle, Ms. Sunita George, is trying to point out that her school textbook carries sample questions, and all of which were carrying the names of men. That's something which is so normal in our lives. It was an eye opener when she put this together and she showed this. That's when people sat up and realized the fact that there's just no representation of women in normal life, and that's something that we passionately want to kind of change through the activities that we've conducted and we hope to conduct in the future. Then we are a design school. Pratna is part. She teaches design. Sunena has been teaching design, and she's been dabbling with it all through her professional life. The young Ishani and Mehek both are design professionals, and the output is out there for all to see. The kind of involvement, the kind of colors, the kind of creativity that we were able to showcase in the last 4 years is something that each one of us are extremely proud of. And we were able to showcase some of it when we hosted each one of you all here in Mumbai in various ways, be the mug that we gave out, or the storybooks that were handed out, the bookmarks which were created, the logos that we redesigned for Ni3, etc. So that's a highlight for us for Ni3 India. We've been fortunate to do quite a few workshops for young students, and there was this one specific one that stood out, where we had very young students in the age group of about I think it was 9 to 12, who were brought in from a leading international school in Mumbai. They'd heard of us, they approached us, and they requested that we run a workshop for them, where we get them to think and try and make them aware of the gender normalization, and we were able to do it. And the kind of output that they generated in the 3 hours time period was something that we are all very, very proud of. We were able to provide internships to the students in the university that we are a part of. That was very gratifying. Isa Sheikh in 2019 worked with us, and he provided inputs on how to improve and optimize our social media presence. Dharmet and Gwyneth, the two that you see on screen right now, worked on making PTC successful, Play Talk Change successful, in bringing in more and more people to join us. And it was extremely invigorating, and I think at the end of it all, we are left with a great sense of satisfaction that we've been able to provide them some guidance, some mentorship in their careers ahead. The poster competition that we conducted was a huge success. We had tremendous participation. I mean, in terms of the kind of creativity, the output that came out from the post competition was second to none. So it's something that we are extremely proud about. Young Ishani and Mehek just hit the ball right out of the park in planning and executing the very complex play top change conference all by themselves, completely by themselves. The only help that I have provided them was in terms of giving opening up the purses for them in terms of money. Apart from that, from conception to planning the entire thing, ensuring participation, ensuring delegates were involved, invited, and the teams for the talks, etc. Everything was run by them, and I think they have very clearly demonstrated their ability and the sheer talent and determination that they have, and it's going to be tremendous sitting on the sidelines and watching their careers progress. Something we are very passionate and proud about. The term end conference from yesterday and the kind of inputs that we received from the participants yesterday was very humbling, very eye-opening, and fills us with great pride as we approach, the penultimate days of the project. It gives us a feeling that we've done something worthwhile in the city of Mumbai, in the society that we live in, and that's tremendous. That gives us a lot of joy. That gives us a lot of satisfaction. We are incredibly proud of the kind of collaborations and partnerships we've been able to garner over the last 4 years. The memorandum of understanding with the government of Maharashtra, the kind of efforts that it took, the run around that we had to do, but at the end of it all to have the dotted line signed by the government, it was satisfaction. Partnering with Triune Consultancy and Ms. Catherine Fernandez, I think we have made a friend forever and a partner, in all future projects. Thank you very much, Catherine. Partnering with the Alternative Story and Paras Sharma and his team, the kind of support that we got from them, the insights that we got from them in terms of psychological support was tremendous. Thanks, Paras, for all the help that you provided us with. The unconditional support from Mrs. Prachi Sathe and Jagdish Indalkar, humbling moments, because those are people who have been in academia, and they were able to see the importance of this project, and getting their blessings right at the beginning of right at the outset. Things just opened up for us. I mean, gates just opened up for us with the kind of guidance that they gave. Ever grateful to both of them. Partnering with Teach for India and their schools, they have just gone out of the way to try and help us out at each juncture. Whenever we felt that we might fall short of students for having our surveys conducted, they just came right up to us and said that, don't worry, we're going to help you out with this, and help they did, and we are ever grateful to them. Thank you very much, Teach for India. Small collaborations with women-run businesses, and there was this very unique concept that we partnered with, Cooked by Moms. If you remember, in the June 2019 India conference, India Summit, the food was completely provided by um, women who come from marginalized sections of society, and this was a business which started by one of our partners, Ms. Namrata Tanna, who put together the Cook by Moms, and she runs it as a business which involves and provides employment to people, to women from the marginalized sections. So thrilled to have partnered with them. And towards the end of the you know at the start of the fourth year, we put together Idolus Consulting, and we were able to take ahead our project when the contract with ISD came to an end. The setting up of the design hub, it was a great achievement for us, because all design elements from that point on, globally, for all the participating countries, were handled by us. Thank you very much, Adele, for having given us that opportunity. I think it just made all of the design hub members shine spectacularly. I mean, I can't think of another term, but that specific one, because the kind of work that they have done in terms of logo redesign for Ni3, the Play Talk Change logo, the executive summary, the various reports that we've been working on, everything. And also towards the end, the very specific inputs on the India-centric inputs on the game. All of these have been incredible achievements for the entire team. In terms of challenges and learnings that we have garnered from the last 4 years, I think we realize that when we are a small team, maybe our voice is not loud enough for garnering institutional support as much as we need it, and at crucial times. So that's a learning. So I think we've got to kind of create workarounds around that, in terms of maybe screaming louder, maybe trying to get more inclusive in our approach with the institution that we're working in. But that's a learning. The difficulty of initiating engagement with practitioners and NGOs due to clash of interests. So there are a lot of people, bodies which work in the same field, and it's not always easy to kind of bring like-minded people together because of clashes. So that's another learning. We have literally worked right across the globe. So you have Jamaica at one end and India the other end now. Perhaps we'll have to find ways and means of improving our feedback mechanism in all future projects, and perhaps reducing the turnaround time for all of the feedback to reach everyone. That's an area of opportunity for us, and I'm sure we can work around and create creative ideas around them. Government approvals. I mentioned that we started with our canvassing with the government in mid of 2018, but ended up getting the approvals only around mid of 2019, which is a long time. But that's something which we have learned, and perhaps in all future projects we might have to move faster. We might have to engage more people to lobby, to canvas our project and get approvals faster. School buy-ins and finding volunteers for the psychosocial surveys, because we had multiple different people to deal with. We had approvals coming in from the main office, and the execution was being done by completely different people, and they would execute only because they were asked to do it in terms of an order coming from the high command. So maybe if we can try and get better buy-in with schools and the head offices, I think it could be the whole process could be faster. And then, of course, generating media interest and communication with other country teams for events. These were primarily, I think, the media interest was it got hampered primarily because of the pandemic and the resultant lockdown. Had that not happened, we might have been able to do better in terms of visibility of the project. Um, that is that, and of course, I mean, I just mentioned about the impact of the COVID, but it's been huge because learning, working from home itself, the personal touch was lost in in many sense, and there was the complete postponing of the games trial. It could happen. It, I mean, in the original plan, we had initially decided that we're going to be doing the game trials as per plan, but uh, there's been a complete shutdown of all schools. The schools have not reopened. We've just heard that the latest plan, that's been game trials has been hit badly, and uh, pa- participation in conferences which could have been in person have had to be virtual, and that has had an impact because there is only so much that can be done virtually. What I'm doing right now, there's only a certain extent to which I'll be able to express myself virtually. And the personal bit is something that is always going to be missed in these kind of times. These are our top achievements and learnings that we've had over the last 4 years. That's our team, and we're going to be missing having all of these conversations. I'm sorry if I have overshot my time. I think I've taken about 25 odd minutes, but it was important. It's very gratifying to talk about each of these achievements, spell them out, and let the world know that this is something that we've put our heart and soul into, and we hope that we've been able to make a mark. I'll end it over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Banu. I have to say that was phenomenal as well. And I think the design part of your work has just had such a tremendous impact on all of us. The infographics that you've produced, which means that we can actually reach much greater audiences, people who may not have engaged with our work in other ways. And it's been a real pleasure to see that. I just don't have that creativity in me, but I can really appreciate when I see it. And the lead that your young people have taken on the Play Talk Change and the I Am initiatives have just, again, been really inspirational. So I think it's right that we should be celebrating and looking back at all that's been achieved, despite what's gone on. So thank you, that was really lovely. Christine, can I come to you for the Jamaica update?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to see this? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone.
Yes, yes.
Oh, you are? Okay, thank you. It's amazing that we have reached 4 years. So speaking about our major achievements, I divided them into 7. The studies that we have done, so we did a qualitative study, interviews with 15 women and also 2 focus groups, 5 men and a group of professionals who have worked with male survivors. We have also, oh, why isn't this good? Okay. We also did a quantitative study where we did a survey of over 7,000 children and youths between the ages of 9 to 17 years, and we went into 20 schools. We also did a game usability trial where we tested the gamer experience with the game that was developed. We also did a discourse analysis about news items coming out of Jamaica concerning child sexual abuse. We looking at publications, publication preparation and other outputs. We have the executive summary coming from the qualitative study that you have access to online now. We also have an article published, Prevalence and Correlates of Non-Suicidal Self-Injury. We also have the writing of the quantitative report, which you'll hear about tomorrow, Child Maltreatment, Exposure to Violence. And the writing of a book chapter, Shifting the Burden, Promoting a Child-Friendly Collective Approach to CSA in Jamaica. We have, of course, the pro-social game for child sexual abuse intervention, GABI. And this was one of the major outputs that we had, you know, and so this was one of our very, main aim. And that was informed by our qualitative research. And these are the, and I guess you will hear more of it, but these are what the aims that we have for that game. We also had our curriculum development, curriculum to support the prevention of child sexual abuse in Jamaica. And that was also one of the major outputs that we had, and that was also done. And these are the aims coming out of that curriculum. And we have the policy brief on child sexual abuse in Jamaica that was also developed, and that is accessible online. So it's just amazing what we have been able to do in terms of output. Submitted for publication to the Caribbean Journal of Psychology, the prevalence and impact of children's exposure to domestic violence in Jamaica, as well as this article also, Child Abuse and Neglect, submitted to the Journal of Clinical Psychology. And we have been prepared for publication, a monograph, representations of CSA in Jamaica, a corpus assisted discourse of popular news media, the usability trial of a pro-social game that is also being prepared for publication, as well as a disclosure article coming out of the work package 2 as well. Other achievements, the relationships that we had to develop with stakeholders, that was very important. So we had to walk a line, understanding the fact that there are many stakeholders in Jamaica who have been working where gender-based violence is concerned. So we had to make sure that we make it understood that we are not here to replace anyone or anything like that, but to actually collaborate. And it worked out very well, because what we are doing is something that would actually enhance what everyone else is doing. So we now end up being a part of that general team. We had the establishment of a national response team, and that came out of that relationship that we developed with stakeholders. So we had support from the National Parenting Support Commission and the Women's Media Watch. They actually gave us persons for the national response team. And one of the things I remember from one of those initial meetings with Ms. Carr from the National Parenting Support Commission was that Jamaica has an openness for change. you know, where gender-based violence is concerned. And that's why there are so many groups with interest where this is concerned. So we have a number of written endorsements, which you will see from different stakeholders on our page. And another set of major achievements was the fact that we were able to get our information out there. So by 2018, we were able to speak on CBM television. We had an interview, both Adele and I. And following that, we had a news release to a number of media houses, as you see listed here. And the news release had to do with Ni3 tackling child sexual exploitation in Jamaica as part of gender-based violence prevention. And as a result of that news release, I was invited to speak on a radio interview with NCU FM. We had also, after our qualitative data collection, we were able to go back to CBM and had another interview. So you'll see both Dr. Paul Booth, which I'm happy to say Dr. Paul Booth, and I there in that interview. And Dr. Paul Booth also wrote an article that went into the Jamaica Observer. It was published in the Jamaica Observer as well. Other achievements, conferences and workshops that we have been involved in. So the ILJ conference in 2019, we were able to have a 1-hour roundtable symposium session, and we spoke about child sexual exploitation and Jamaican children. And we were able to speak to a group of teachers and school leaders, and it was good to get their feedback. They were very welcoming to what it is that we said that we would be doing, and the fact that we would be creating a game, and you know, so they found that quite interesting, and it was quite a different approach, you know, in terms of what they were seeing as an output. We also had Research, Technology and Innovation Day. We had a presentation, and we spoke again concerning the results that came out of our qualitative data. And as a result of being involved with that Research, Technology and Innovation Day, we were invited to CBM to speak. So that was the interview program that you saw there, where Dr. Paul Booth and I were in. We were involved with the Ni3 Mid-Project Summit in India, and we did a workshop on child sexual abuse, and it was so good to see our room full. And so we had a number of attendees, and they were very responsive, and motivation actually. It was very motivational when we returned back to Jamaica. We had more energy.
We're having a little bit of trouble, Christine, hearing you at the moment.
Oh,
You're back.
okay.
That was back. That was magic.
Okay. Oh, you weren't hearing me? I'm sorry. Right. So we also had a presentation at the Ministry of Health and Wellness 10th anniversary, 10th annual National Health Research Conference. And Dr. Nelson presented our topic, Our Women Are Hurting, Chronic Psychosocial Effects of CSA Among Jamaican Women. And I also did a workshop with the Violence Prevention Alliance Group in Jamaica. And the IPSCAN International Congress in Qatar, Dr. Paul Booth presented the Jamaica's focus on adult survivors of gender-based violence. There's also the University of the West Indies seminar, and Dr. Nelson did a seminar presentation there. and the title was Gender Dimensions of Violence Prevention. And the chapter that was written was actually in response to this seminar. And we had a presentation for the Caribbean Social Work Series, and we presented on gender-based violence interventions in the Caribbean, a pro-social computer game. And we were able to actually show parts of the game and to speak to the Caribbean community concerning Ni3. And of course, the Play, Talk, Change conference. That was a very well-run, successful conference, and I must commend Roxanne Harvey for the work she did here, and she led in the preparations and all of that. Where Jamaica was concerned, that was her, and she worked closely with the global team. For government engagement, we did a submission on the sexual harassment bill to Parliament in 2020. Also, we were able to speak with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information concerning our game that was developed, Gabi, as well as the curriculum that was developed, and we spoke on the themes coming out of our qualitative and quantitative study. So the meeting was with the Permanent Secretary, State Minister, Public Relations Officer, and there were other persons there as well. And the response was extremely positive, and they're looking forward to, having these being incorporated in the home and family life education curriculum. So we have, as I said, Jamaica is responsive where
we've lost are you back again?
Oh my.
Yeah, you are back. You're okay.
Okay. For our community involvement, we did data collection at a particular school, and Roxanne was asked about, tiling an office. So Roxanne actually took it upon herself to get sponsorship for that to be done. And 2 business places, True Value Hardware, donated grout and thin set, and New Era Tiles donated tiles. And this is, something that was done for the community. Also, the silent protests against gender-based violence. Roxanne was also involved in that. It was a walk from the St. Andrew Parish Church to Emancipation Park, and it was followed by a concert. So, by Roxanne being involved there, she took Ni3 there as well. We also had one of the schools, the vice principal had died, and we had 2 e-cards designed, one for the school and one for her family. And so we also gave back. And there was one of our stakeholders requested breastfeeding education for young women. So we were able to arrange with Mrs. Simpson, a registered dietitian nutritionist with specialization in breastfeeding education, to actually speak to mothers. So we had 3 biggest challenges, in my opinion. And the first one was to identify the most urgent gender-based violence issue. And we had a number of suggestions, and the main one that came from everyone was child sexual exploitation. And the reason why that came up a lot was because it was between 2017 and 2018, it's like almost every 10 to 14 days, there would be more information concerning child sexual exploitation. So as a result, that was where we started. But look at these other topics, and they show where we also will have to do more research. So these are other topics that were suggested. And the one where you see here the name calling of children by parents, that one, although it was suggested by stakeholders, when we did our game testing, the children in that group said that we should make a game for name calling of children by parents. So that's something that we can consider for future research. So the solution in terms of choosing what it is that we were studying, we did start with child sexual exploitation, but when we did our qualitative study, we realized that child sexual abuse was a much bigger problem. And as a result, we had to go where the research pointed us. And therefore, we went into child sexual abuse as our topic. The next challenge we had was bureaucracy. And it's a part of the culture. So we will follow the rule. And when something, when we hear that there's another thing that we needed to get done and another thing and so on. So we had to do that. And it actually, as a result, caused our timing of our Gantt chart to change. So the solution that we had initial contact by email, followed by phone call, followed by meeting with the stakeholder. And because the full team didn't come on until March and after that. So the first 6 months or so, that was me doing all of this in order to get, contacting by email, following up with phone calls and getting to the stakeholder. But when Roxanne came on board in March and then followed, Carol and then Roxanne came on board, things got much easier in terms of getting the job done. For data collection, we had another challenge. It was difficult balancing both qualitative and quantitative data collection at the same time because it was really the same persons doing the data collection. And therefore, the solution that we had was to recruit data collectors so that the research team could be split into 2 groups. And we also had teachers who were quite helpful in data collection, depending on the school. And the stakeholders were actually also willing to provide participants. And the dedication of the Jamaica team, let me tell you, that was amazing, because part of the reason why we ended up with that overlap of time was the fact that the bureaucracy caused the data collection to be delayed. And now we ended up with both the quantitative and the qualitative data collection happening at the same time. So when we finally got the go-ahead in semester 1, we only had 3 weeks left in that semester. And in that space of time, the team was able to collect over 5,600 surveys, in 3 weeks. And in the next semester, we went to almost 8,000. And that semester 2, because it had a number of exams and so on, we didn't have the time that we would have had in semester 1. But if we had the same kind of timing and all of that, we would have easily gotten over 10,000. The testing of the game was also a problem for data collection because, of course, COVID-19 came along and the schools had to be closed by order of the Prime Minister, and they are still closed at this time. So the solutions, we had to maintain contact with schools as best as possible. It wasn't easy because, of course, the schools are closed. But what we did was that we did that user experience testing of the game with the 4 team participants, and we were able to get that done. And we also still submitted and received ethical approval from the Ministry of Health and Wellness in order to test the game in school. So once we have funding, we will be able to hit the ground running. For the qualitative data collection, the issue that we had was getting enough participants who were willing to speak of their experience, and that was overcome by the willingness of various stakeholders to provide us with participants, and we were able to get persons to interview. And for the collecting data from our male participants, we were able to actually recruit male research assistants to collect data from them, because it's much easier based on our culture for males to be able to just speak more openly, you know, with other males of what their experiences were. So lessons we have learned from COVID-19, we were put in an unfamiliar environment where research data was restricted. But what we did was that we learned ways in which we could still collect data, and we still were able to maintain safety for both participants and data collectors. The Jamaica team has resilience, and that's something that I must say. We were really disappointed at the fact that we were not able to do that game testing that we wanted. It was really disheartening, but we were still able to do something by testing the game to know the gamer experience. In the visits to the various stakeholders, what we kept on hearing is that we need to start at even younger ages. So we are to target younger ages in our future research, as young as 4 or 6. So that is something that we need to consider. And another thing that was said to us is that if we want to be effective on a larger scale, we are to get a popular performer to sing about it. And we are working on that right now. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Christine. I was just thinking you wouldn't want me to come and sing about it at all, because I have the most awful voice going. But yes, again, you've had an amazing 4-year journey, haven't you, with the team, and produced some wonderful, wonderful stuff. I think the fact that you've managed to also do the testing of the psychosocial surveys as well as the testing of the user gameplay has been good. So thank you. You're trying to get out of it.
Yes. I'm not sure why it's not showing me.
It's just if you go to the
oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Jill, am I able to come over to you? So I realise we're really running low on time, but we really need to hear the UK.
Okay, I'll try and be as swift as I can. I'll just share this with you. Okay. Hope everybody can see that. So what was interesting just listening to other country directors was the fact that there are throughout the journey many similarities in terms of the challenges, but interestingly some differences, and I think that's obviously to do with structural and organisational issues within each country, and obviously oh, I need a drink, hang on, cultural issues as well. The reason I chose the image on the first slide because it sort of mirrored what I felt was the UK journey. I loved the vibrancy of the colour because I think that was a demonstration of the passion that's needed and the focus that's needed in terms of a 4-year project that was quite complex. But also you can see the twists and turns and the ups and downs. So that was currently why I put that on the slide. So those are the things I was asked to consider. And these are some of the major achievements from the UK perspective. We have a dearth of research on women's voices and the voices of children within the area of domestic abuse and abuse within young people's relationships. And what I'm proud to say that what we have done is increase that significantly. So it's been such a wonderful addition to what is a lack of UK research, which has captured so many women's voices. We interviewed 52 young women who not only had experience of abuse within their early relationships, but also through the life course. So in domestic abuse situations, which was incredibly powerful and emotive. And whilst we did that, we were also able to add to the research or the lack of research on children's voices. because we heard that through the women in terms of the fact that we were able to evidence what happens for children in domestic abuse situations, which enables us to challenge the belief that children observe domestic abuse, whereas we were very able to show that actually they experience it, not witness it, and are also quite heavily involved in it. So those were real major achievements which have come about at a time when the UK is wanting such evidence, due to the fact that over the last 2-3 years, well, since 2017, we have been waiting for a Domestic Abuse Act. And we now finally have one, but there has been a number of revisions along the way that we've been able to feed into because of the work that we have done in the qualitative research. Some of the experiences of those women were around migrant women coming over to England to be married, and their stories were even more desolate in many instances than other women that we'd interviewed, and probably taking on Adele's point that it's important to look at all women. And what we found when interviewing, that there was a number of women from all over Bangladesh, Iran, Pakistan, etc., who were incredibly isolated and incredibly vulnerable, which led us to want to then do a systematic review, a metasynthesis on the additional barriers to minority ethnic women who were victims of domestic abuse actually being able to leave it. And we were able to put a spotlight on the role of patriarchy and racism within that, which again was something really important for us to give evidence on in terms of violence against women and girls policy, which is something that we did. So the major achievement was that we had amazing rich data. We also had data from perpetrators. We interviewed 19 perpetrators and 3 male survivors of domestic abuse too. So it enabled themes and findings and important recommendations for policy, practice and legislation to be developed, which led to an amazing computer game. I think I'd just at this point like to give credit to our phenomenal games team. The fact that you've produced 4 brilliant games in the space of 4 years through a pandemic just has to be applauded. What you've done in terms of listening to researchers, researching the issues yourselves, and adapting it into authentic and credible games is amazing. So thank you. We've also, like all the other teams, have a wonderful wraparound curriculum from both Paul and Pretty, who have done an amazing job, but we've also had important input. And I think that's something that we've achieved right the way throughout, that every bit of our research over the last 4 years, we have always sought revisions or feedback from professionals, particularly stakeholders who are working with survivors and perpetrators, from young people themselves, just to make sure that what we're doing has that credibility around it. What we're also doing, and it's taken a bit of knocking on doors, but like everybody else, you just keep on knocking. We are now in a position where we are working with our university that had no HR policy on domestic abuse or sexual harassment, which is at an all-time high here in the UK. But we're working with the Student Union, HR, and our senior leadership team regarding a university strategy and policy on sexual harm and domestic abuse across students and staff. Other major achievements, I know the number's not as high as other countries, but trust me, this was an absolute nightmare trying to get into schools and colleges, but after 18 months of knocking on far too many doors and offering far too many presentations to staff teams, we've almost 3,000 young people surveyed between the ages of 10 and 18. This is the first data of its kind in the UK on prevalence of abuse inside and outside the family home. And both the Home Office and Department for Education have really been interested in what that research and data means and have asked for all policy briefs to be sent to them. Another major achievement was that, and I think needs recognising, that we're quite unique as a centre. Not only have we worked across 4 countries, but across 3 university schools, several disciplines, across 7 work packages to meet the deadlines. And in the main, that's been done despite a pandemic. So congratulations to all, because it's difficult as not everybody works in the same way. We don't always see things through the same lens. So a major achievement around conflict resolution too has been really important. We did have a very successful policy forum in March of this year, which involved key politicians, Home Office and the like. I'm not going to go too much into that because later this afternoon, both Louis and I have got a presentation sort of underpinning and outlining some of the reflections upon that. Like all countries, we have publications and conference presentations, both in the UK and abroad. And what Ni3 has offered is phenomenal opportunities for early researchers working alongside renowned professors. And one of those opportunities Christine alluded to was when myself, Carol, Esther and Rukmini were able to fly to Qatar, no mean feat in itself, to present at the IBSCAN Child Abuse and Neglect Conference. That was phenomenal, but also the ability to be with other like-minded early researchers to learn and to share experiences across culture, across boundaries, is something that I and they, I don't think, will forget. So the care of early researchers, I think, is important and should be applauded. Another major achievement for Ni3 is that this is not research just for research's sake, that it has and will have an impact. When I was speaking with the Domestic Abuse Commissioner for the UK, Nicole Jacobs, and I was trying to get her to come and speak at the policy forum, there was something that I said, and she said, "That's your hook." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You've just told me and persuaded me that your research is not just about publications and sitting on a shelf, that actually you all want to make a difference. So I'm on board." So I think that was a huge plus for us. Also, we've talked a lot about the artwork and social media posts that many of us had no experience of. So it's probably been a very huge learning curve. But also I was able with others to work with survivors who have also campaigned with us, both in videos, development of songs and some amazing artwork that we've been able to publicise through our conferences, etc. And they add beautiful power and tone to anything that we've done. Biggest challenges? Time constraints. There has been a lot to do in 4 years. Without even thinking about a pandemic, it's been tight. For us, and I will go into this more when we talk about the work of work package 4 and the survey and the trialling of the games, there has been in the UK a great deal of gatekeeping and risk aversion by senior leaders within our schools and colleges, which has made it really difficult for us to obtain the voice and experiences of children and young people, which I have talked to the Department for Education about, because unless we allow them a voice, it's very difficult to ensure that we have timely and effective interventions to help them with particular issues that are happening both outside and inside the family home. The work of Ni3 has been incredibly resource intensive, and we haven't always had numbers of staff, like Eric was saying, in order to be able to carry that out. Which links, I think, really to an awareness when you start with this work, and for some people it was the first time of ever working in adolescent abuse and domestic abuse, that as researchers we just became very much aware of the enormity of the problem. And there's been many times with head in my hands that I've just thought, how on earth do we begin to make any difference? Because it's been like this, it almost feels probably since time began, and it can feel overwhelming. And so the biggest challenge is to the impact on the researcher, about being able to carry on putting one foot in front of the other and recognizing that little steps and little changes are sometimes all it takes. And so biggest challenge has been ensuring debriefing of researchers, that making sure that we are all well and able to continue. Working from home has made that harder, because I think we've all suggested that has been a loss and a sense of team. Those moments of just going into each other's office and grabbing water by the fountain are huge and are really important for rapport, etc. So I think we've lost some of that, hopefully regaining it soon. One of the biggest challenges is our government's reaction to the pandemic, which probably, if you've all seen on world news, has been chaotic at best. And what that's meant for our children, our teachers, has made then it very difficult to be able to knock on school doors and say, hello, can we now trial the game? So for those of you not aware, obviously some trials have been stopped. Uganda have done theirs. We're just starting ours. We successfully completed one school last week and have taken some feedback from that, mainly very positive, with children and young people engaging in it. And we've got 2 schools tomorrow. So the team is really busy at the moment and will be throughout October. 2 more challenges, really. Engaging men in what is a huge silent pandemic is continuing to be challenging. And we could see that when we had a call for revisions to the domestic abuse bill, in that it was led really by women movement and women's organisations. That's not to say some men weren't present, but engaging men in this issue, I think, continues to be a really big challenge, and further research would have to take that on board as to how we do that, as was accessing perpetrators with a willingness to be open and honest, and perhaps not undermine what they've done, or limit exactly what they've done. So that is something that has been an ongoing challenge. We've not been able to rectify that. And one of the other ones is working with professionals, breaking the myths of domestic abuse and challenging current professional interventions, which we're continuing to do, and I certainly do within my teaching. So the last slide, lessons learnt. I think Roz started it off by saying, COVID shone a light on the pandemic that is domestic abuse, and we have horrific statistics for the amount of women who either rang helplines or searched for help on domestic abuse websites, with sometimes phone calls and clicks on computers going up by 700%. So that was really hard to watch, and knowing that not only were women trapped, but children were too. So some of the lessons from the pandemic are yet to be revealed, because the impact on women and children's mental health is likely to go through the roof. That researcher self-care is more difficult when remote working, but not impossible. And that despite everything, despite lockdown, no lockdown, lockdowns, and whatever else, that what it's taught me, if there's a passion and desire to make a difference, then action will follow, that we can do it regardless. The lesson learned is a repeat of what I've just said, that unfortunately it's mostly women who demand change, and that has to change. So we need to bring more men into the discussion, and that couldn't be more important. And that we need to move away from victim blaming or having victims under the spotlight, which sounds like a great thing, but not when actually we're not working effectively. But we need to concentrate on more effective interventions for those who perpetrate violence, but also effective education within schools, which hopefully the game and the curriculum will provide.